welcome back. So in this today's video we are going to learn about how to create a REST endpoint and how to invoke that REST endpoint. Okay, first of all, to create a REST endpoint we need a controller class. So in the last video when we explained about the annotations, we already created this controller, so we are going to reuse this controller class to create a REST endpoint. So one class should act as a controller, then we need to add this at the rate REST controller stereotype annotation. Then that class should act as a controller class. This is where the HTTP requests are served. Okay, so let's create one endpoint. So I'm using get mapping. So get mapping is basically used to fetch the data from our application. So basically we have four different types of mappings. Mainly we have four. So that is get mapping, post mapping, put mapping and delete mapping. These are the four the annotations we have. So basically the get mapping is used to fetch the data and return data from our application, and post mapping is used to, if you want to post any data, or let's say in this example let's take employee as the example. If you want to insert the employee data into the database, so then we are going to use at the rate post mapping to post the employee data into the database, to insert the employee data into the database. Okay, again coming to the third one, which is put mapping. Put mapping is let's say the employee address has changed from one address to another address, so then we need to update the employee address in our database. So then we are going to use the put mapping to update the employee's address. Coming to the delete mapping, whenever this employee left the organization, we need to delete the employee uh, user into from our database. Then we are going to use this delete mapping for to delete the employee record. These are the four different mappings we need to keep in mind. So in the interviews, the interviewer will definitely ask, can you explain what are the different types of mappings we have? Then we need to say like get mapping, post mapping, put mapping and delete mapping. These are the four important mappings. So currently we are using at the rate get mapping. Why? Because we want to get or something fetch the data and return back to the user. So yeah, here I'm going to use public response entity. So I'm going to response entity of I'm taking string here. So I'm going to import this response entity, which is from http spring framework.http. Okay, so here I'm saying get app info. This is my method name, which is a very basic method here. So here I'm going to return response entity dot okay. Okay is nothing but a positive response 200. Okay response. Instead of that, I'm going to give application is up and running. Okay, so here what I returned in response entity of a string. This is one of the Spring Boot standard to return any data. So in the response, I'm just giving response entity dot okay, application up and running. So this is a small endpoint, which is very basic endpoint I have created. Let's start our application to test this, whether this endpoint is working fine or right. You can see application started on port 1990. So just head to the Safari browser and let's say localhost 1990 slash. So if you give this, previously we got white label error, right? But now we are getting application is up and running. So we can understand that our application is working fine. So our first endpoint is working fine. If you want to add any of the endpoints, like let's say we need to add just one more endpoint like this, we need to specify, you can specify the endpoint name, which is health. Okay, so if you want to rerun, you can just click here. It will ask you stop and rerun. Yes, stop and rerun. It immediately stops and rerun application. Okay, now if you give again refresh this endpoint, it will give you white label error. Why? Because we don't have that endpoint now. So what we have one more, the endpoint name exactly we need to give, which is the health. So if you hit this, now you can see application is up and running. This is how we need to create a REST endpoint and test the REST endpoint. But we need to keep in mind one thing: only get and get mapping endpoints we can be tested in the browser. Rest of all, we should use some REST endpoint testers like Postman. We need to use. In the next video, we will see what is Postman, how you can use the Postman, and all these things we can create whenever we are going to see about the CRUD operations like create, retrieve, update, delete operations. Then we are going to learn about all these things. Okay, that's all from today. So if you find this video helpful or useful, and if you gain some knowledge from this video, please like, share, subscribe this video. Okay, and share to your friends. I just need some support, some motivation from this video, so please keep supporting. Until then, keep grasping from Code Grasper. Thank you.